Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to KT Confidential. This is episode 78. I'm here with my partner, Ariel Kormendy. I'm Adrian Trott. And today, we have the pleasure of what?
Okay, go ahead.
We have the pleasure of Erin Monett joining us today. Thank you very much, Erin.
Thank you very much. Full disclosure, are we saying that I am, in fact, your sister-in-law?
Yeah.
You just did. Thanks for breaking the bank there. We had a long chat with our editor today who suggested let's have a more defined intro and outro and some more structure to the podcast. So for those of you tuning in, episode 78, as Adrian mentioned, this is number 8 in quarantine. And Adrian and I, co-owners of KT Realty, the parent company of Kormendy Trott Team, and also co-owners of KT Property Management. We've got all your real estate needs covered. And his sister-in-law is joining us, who's now a realtor that has been licensed for how long now?
Since September. So I'm still in my rookie year, but I've done some sales.
And you're doing a damn good job so far, if I do say so myself. But also owner of Monett Bay and Trott Cottage.
Right, our pride and joy.
Your babies, your investments, your sweat and tears, probably more often than you'd like.
Literally,
and
yes.
You live in Huntsville, and you've got also a background in photography. You're a professional photographer. You've got all kinds of things happening in Muskoka. So we're glad to have you on for a chat. And we're drinking some wine tonight.
Yes, we are.
So
what are you guys having tonight?
I have a Rioja. I've not opened it yet. I'm going to open it on camera.
I'm enjoying a Petit Chablis from France, which is my favorite right now.
And I am actually finishing off a bottle that I opened last night, which is the exact same wine that I drank last week. Sorry to disappoint those who are fans of wine. Highway 101. It's a nice cab from California. And I got a case of it. So
I didn't know we were supposed to show the bottle. My bottle is really pretty. It's all the way downstairs, though.
Well, we'll just have to have you back with the same bottle then.
Okay.
And we'll put a link below to where you can see the label of the bottle if you like. What kind of I'm just curious, Adrian, what kind of a bottle opener are you using there? Anything fancy?
This is my pride and joy. You can't see, can you? Oh.
Sort of, not really. It's flashy.
I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. I think it's Lagoule. But it's a really nice wine opener.
What's good to find the pronunciation on something is the internet.
Made of olive wood, and it's not cheap. It's like a $200 basic wine opener.
Was it a gift?
Yeah, I asked for it for Christmas and I got it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
$200 wine opener.
I'm not a fan of the fancy wine openers, like the ones where you just push it down and pull it up. I like the traditional corkscrew. I find there's something to it.
So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about. Erin wants to talk a little bit about cottages and properties and investments in the Muskoka area. Whether or not maybe
it's a good topic for us because we get a lot of people now that are between buying a cottage and having that vacation property versus when they live in the city versus buying a property that might be a little bit bigger than they would have normally bought, but foregoing the cottage and having like a backyard oasis.
Well, I've got a lot to say about that. Let me tell you, I've got a lot to say about that.
I'm sure Erin has a lot of things to say about it as well.
Let's just run through topics. So we'll talk a little bit about maybe Airbnb and the market for that.
Yes.
We want to talk about the market in Muskoka and cottage country and just what we were talking about now. And maybe we should dabble into, because I know we've had some questions on it, is social media. And for you, Erin, social media is a big part of everything that you do and every business that you're a part of. So maybe we can touch on that and how it's transformed maybe your life and become a part of your routines and your income. So where you guys want to start?
Let's go with social media. It's kind of my daily bread. I definitely thank Instagram and Facebook specifically for our success in the last year. I mean, all of our cottage rentals have their own accounts, which is kind of like their own identities, and our businesses have their own accounts. And I think that when you kind of target your Instagram account to a niche, to your target market, you're filtering out like all the other people that, maybe won't necessarily care that what I had for lunch that day or what my cottage bathroom looks like, or, you know what I mean? Like you're targeting the people who are actually interested in what you've got to say about that subject. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
So it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I think you've done a tremendous, speaking of your cottage properties, okay, Monett Bay and Trott Cottage, I think you've done a tremendous job in creating a brand for the property, and it's developed attention, and you put your passion into it. So I think there's something for everybody to learn with that. And even when it comes to buying and selling real estate, whether it's as a realtor, as a homeowner, you can and should maybe do it with every single property, right? Like it's creating a brand, whether or not it's to that extent, it's creating a brand for that property. And I think you've done a damn good job.
Thanks. It's kind of crazy that an inanimate object like a building could have, over 18,000 followers. A lot of it obviously is an extension of my personality too that I'm putting into the Instagrams, but every picture is of the house. Or the dock or it is the cottage. And so when you follow us, that's what you're getting. You're getting the A-frame that is pretty popular. Who knew? I mean, I didn't think anything of an A-frame 5 years ago when we bought it. I was like, this thing's ugly. And then we renovated it, had it rented that very summer. And it's just it's taken off. It's crazy. And because of that success, we got a second cottage up north too.
So why are you smirking, Adrian?
Nothing. Just smiling.
You're happy? It's a good wine. How's everybody's wine? So
mine is great. Yes.
Did you get a case of it?
Yes, that's why. I'm no, sorry, I didn't have this one last time, but I've had this for a couple of weeks now. Working on it slowly. I'm more slowly now than I was before.
How much wine have you been into? This is now your third case?
No. I have finished one, and then I'm working on two separate ones slowly.
Right.
I didn't drink anything yesterday.
Self-isolation's treating you well when there's a day that you just take a break from drinking, eh?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. But Erin, so just to comment on you're saying you're surprised so many people are interested in it, but it's there's such a big story behind it. And it's every picture tells a lot about the property. And there's so many people that are interested in design and decor and vacations and cottages. And absolutely. That's a lot of people's dream. Not everyone, but a lot of people grow up with that friend, that lucky friend that had a cottage that they got to go to every now and then, right? So it's for those people, it becomes a dream or a goal of theirs to own a property, especially lakefront.
Isn't that a Canadian thing, though, right? To have ideally a waterfront. Not all of them are, but to have a cottage where you're splashing around in the lake, going fishing, and sitting by the campfire, come on, if you were born in Canada and didn't experience that as a child growing up, you were deprived.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have one, but we had close friends that did. And I remember very clearly many events that happened there, from fishing to boating, and it becomes just memory that's engraved into your mind. And it's something that would be nice to give to your kids too, although it's not feasible financially for many, and there's lots of other alternatives. And I think that's where the Airbnb aspect comes in, where people that don't want the upkeep and cost of a cottage can have very similar experiences on a regular annual basis, going once a week, even to the same cottage every time. So it becomes very memorable.
Hey, growing up, my family rented the same cottage. There was no Airbnb at that time, but we rented the same cottage, which was a little group of 8 cottages, and you rented one little shithole for like $600 a week, and you went and you looked forward to it every single year. And now Erin is experiencing that, but in a whole other format, because there's this electronic and virtual component that comes to it. How many of your bookings are booked through Airbnb? Are you close to 100% or like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did start using Vacation Rental by Owner this year, but have only one booking through them. Everything is actually generated through our Instagram and channeled to Airbnb. So I would say that 70% of our renters currently that are booked for summer 2020 have come through Instagram, and we've said, click the link in our bio.
Yep.
And that's Airbnb. And so they're coming from Instagram though.
And you're doing this without any paid advertising. It's all organic. So there's a huge lesson for investors up in cottage country, we'll say, to be learned from what you're doing. And the fact that now you have the license and ability to take somebody and help them purchase that property and help them do what you're doing and get some advice from your experience. So even though you've only been licensed as a realtor for less than a year, and you say you're a rookie, you're very seasoned on what you're specializing in helping people do it, right?
Yeah, I had that light bulb moment like 2 years ago. I've been shooting real estate up here forever, as long as I've lived here, 14 years. And I was driving home from a listing shoot, and I was just kind of like, wait a second. And I was checking my Instagram and whatever. And somebody had said, I want what you have. Like, I want to do what you're doing. I want a cottage. Like, tell me how. And I'm just like, well, and then it dawned on me, and I was like, wait a second. I should be shooting my own listings and selling my own cottages and buying for these very people that are messaging me on Instagram saying, I want this. Like, I pulled the car over and I called Brad, and I was like, guess what? I think I'm going to be a realtor. And he was just like, what? Because like my parents have been trying to get me to do it for 20 years. And I'm just, but now it makes sense. Now it absolutely makes sense with our rentals and what I have to offer with my Airbnb knowledge and experience. It's working out.
So you actually responded to one of our Instagram stories, the one with the sticker on it, and you asked the question that you wanted to ask during this podcast, essentially.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead?
I'm getting questions. We're all unsure right now. We're all afraid of the future. The future is, whatever. And we're going through this together, and everybody is in the same boat. So they're messaging me, and they're saying like, what am I going to do with my income property? What am I going to do with my cottage? What are you doing with yours? Are you going to be able to afford to keep 3 homes? Like, and they're looking to me as some sort of like, I don't know, have all the answers. I don't, but I asked that question today on your thing, because I was hoping that you'd bring that up. People want to know if they should be selling their cottages. If it's like, panic, like we pull out now, like I might need the money or whatever, or they'll never rent again or whatever. And my advice is no, which is, kind of probably the opposite to what I should be saying as an agent. But no, being honest, I don't think that we should be afraid of the summer anyways, like of the potential income earning possibilities this summer. I feel like we're going to be okay. Like, it's going to start late. We're not all going to, be out the gate on May 2-4 weekend renting our places at full pop, but I feel like by July, August, like it'll come around. We'll have some fall bookings and we'll have some Thanksgiving bookings. And I just think that fear is really scaring people right now. And they think that they need to sell their cottages. And I don't think that they should.
Well, for the last probably 18 months, because we've now had our cottage for closing in on 3 years. And for the last year and a half, because now we're seeing our boys needing more space in the yard, particularly, and how much they enjoy the cottage. I struggle because it was a great investment. I think if we keep the cottage, the boys will grow up to absolutely love it. And to Adrian's point, they might have friends coming up and will be that family that people are like, oh, let's go to their cottage. And I love that because the kids will then have something that they appreciate as a family. But at the same time, it's a 3-hour drive away. We don't rent it out. We don't rent it at all. So we pay for it all year round and use it. Realistically, we use it all of July and August as much as we can. And I love being up there in September. It's my birthday month.
That's my favorite month.
Yes, absolutely. Because you can still, you can be outside. It's not too humid. You can go swimming. You have nice, cool nights. So it's nice to sleep. The colors start changing. It's my absolute perfect time of the year. So 3 months out of the 12 is what we're using it and paying for it all year round. And there's been the debate, to Adrian's point, as to, well, do we sell the cottage potentially and get a home with a bigger backyard and a pool, or the ability to put a pool and have our little cottage at home? And now with us being in isolation, it's becoming more and more apparent that might be the better idea at this point, and then revisit a cottage purchase maybe down the line. So I might not be in a position of people that are financially in having that question, but I am in the position where self-isolation has made me decide, do we really need or want that cottage and that expense when it is just an expense for us? So that's what I'm experiencing. I don't know if you've got any of those comments at all, but it's something we're thinking about.
My followers are mostly just saying, like, I feel like I can't carry it if it doesn't rent. So they're saying, like, do you feel like we won't have any rentals? And I do believe we will. It will happen. It'll get better.
Well, even in a worst case scenario, Erin, let's just say no rent this year.
Yeah.
Doesn't it still make sense to hold on to that property though? If it's your rental, if it's your income property and it's a secondary property, knowing how much, and I'm assuming we're talking about waterfront properties, assuming it's a waterfront property and every mortgage payment is paying about 50% of your principal on that property, doesn't it make sense for most people to hang on to it, knowing that real estate, especially waterfront real estate in the long term, is going to be what gives a good return on the investment? Like, people hang on to shit stocks forever because they think they're going to bounce back and turn into something great, or they'll recoup some of the money that they lost or whatever. And here's, you're out a few months of payments because you can't rent it. I think the hold game, and I wasn't knocking you, Adrian, for holding that shit stock for years, but
I was about to raise my hand.
Yeah. Don't worry.
I think there's a difference though, because it's for a lot of people. I mean, not everybody, but I imagine, I believe that a lot of people are way over leveraged, and they can't, like, the cost to carry it is probably quite high relative to their income. So a lot of people are probably just scraping to get by. But I think, in your case, I would say it makes more sense to keep it and maybe turn it into a rental property as far as making a smarter financial decision rather than reinvesting that into your primary residence. So the question then becomes how, and Erin, you'd be better to answer this, if for people that don't live nearby, what options do they have? And is it still feasible to hire a company to manage the property as a rental? Or is it feasible to think that they can manage it on their own if they have a 2 to 3 hour drive in order to get there?
There are companies coming up all the time.
There's a business you need to start, by the way.
Oh boy. Yeah. There are people popping up that are doing cottage turnover, specifically Airbnbs on Saturdays and Sundays, and marketing that. And then I actually know a lot of people that drive up from Toronto to do the flips. And I think that's crazy. But they're doing it and they're like in their third year. And, I mean, they think it's worth their time. Absolutely. To save the money. We do our own turnovers. That was part of our business plan, was to buy properties close to our home so that we could maintain them ourselves and do the cleaning ourselves. So we're saving money on that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's tough. I feel like if you, it has everything to do with your priorities. Obviously, for Ariel, like, is your kind of desire to have a bigger home with a bigger backyard? Is that just like your goal, and not so much having the cottage? It just comes down to what people want in the future.
For us, I think a big component of the thought process has been, if we're not buying and selling homes right now, which we're not taking on any new clients unless they absolutely have to sell. And we've been at home now. We're almost at eight weeks that we've been at home and haven't left the house. So when Natalie and I sat back and started assessing, okay, we're not going to have any income for probably 6 months. And we don't qualify for a lot of the government programs because even though we're not working, we still had closings happening now, which were sales from January, February, March, before all this happened. So we're actually getting paid today for business we did months ago. So it's really not fair from that standpoint, but we still have money coming in. So we don't qualify for these government programs. But what that means is, unless the government extends their dates, which I'm hoping and I believe that they will do if this continues, we won't have any money coming in from mid-June onwards. So when we look at our finances, we say, well, what's the first thing to go? And what's the most saleable thing that we have? And aside from our primary residence, which I don't think would be as saleable as the cottage would be the easiest because there's nobody there. You can visit the cottage with being hundreds of feet away from anybody else. And it's a sterile environment because it's clean as hell. So, easy to show. And we're going into the season where everybody's wishing that they had a cottage to go and isolate in. So, so that became the first thing, that if financially we needed to, that would go. And then any proceeds that we would have would go to improving our primary residence afterwards.
So that's funny because Brad and I had that conversation and it was the opposite. It was, if we go a year without income, what goes first? And it's our house before our cottages. Which
makes sense for you guys because you're working still within a reasonable distance from your other properties. So you kind of move into a combination of the two and sell your primary residence. And Adrian's been big in the last, quite a while, but he wants to be putting out some content about how your primary residence is not shouldn't be your primary investment.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of friends that own cottages up here that actually rent in Toronto in the GTA and they own up here. I'm not sure if you guys have experience with that.
I think the younger demographic, that is the absolute way to go, because if you want to live in the GTA now, it's extremely expensive to own a home, and it's a tremendous amount of out of pocket for your down payment and closing costs. And you can own, I would say, very easily under $500,000 gets you a tremendous rental property on a lake still. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on it to make it a brand, make it something that everybody's going to want to rent, and you make it into an income property, and that ends up paying your rent in the city and even pocketing a little bit more. Plus, you've got this property to visit when nobody's renting.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian, You've been quiet, my friend.
Well, I'm a big advocate of it, and like you said, we've been talking about it a lot lately. And I think I think a lot of people are relying on their primary residence as their retirement fund, and yet I don't think it's a good investment in the sense that there's no tax incentives. It's very costly to own a home and to maintain it. And as soon as you have that second property that you own, it becomes a rental or becomes tax incentives, and then somebody's paying down your mortgage instead of having to pay interest on your own principal residence. So I think it makes sense. I think that's very smart of people to do. And I think you're right, Ariel, that more and more people will opt, especially younger demographics, generations, because I think our parents grew up thinking that owning a home was like the American dream or whatever. Like that's what your goal is. But I don't think people in, millennials, I don't think they care so much.
Well, having a European background as well, the Hungarian side of my family, it was very much the mindset that it was something to be a homeowner, right? Like if you were a homeowner, you had it very well. And it was always the goal of my grandparents, not only to own a home, but to own it mortgage free. And I think a lot of people, like our parents and grandparents, grew up that way, right? Like having a mortgage is faux pas. And I now think that it's quite the opposite. I think you should mortgage the crap. If you do have a primary residence and you're not renting, you should mortgage the crap out of it, like to its fullest extent. Stay there forever. So make sure it's a home and a location you like, and then use any equity that you can squeeze out of that place to buy up as many properties as you can, create a brand, put them on Airbnb right now, and rent it to people. And the most desirable rentals, in my opinion, are either condos in Toronto or cottage properties that are nicely tucked away on waterfront.
Well, you think you've got $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 sitting in equity, and you can borrow that at now like less than 2%, around 2%, 2 to 2.5%, just by remortgaging. Like it's unheard of. And there's so many people that have that money available to them.
So does this mean you're going to buy a cottage?
No, I would not buy a cottage. I would buy a rental property. Multi-residentials, I still want to entertain.
See, this is a whole other podcast because I am super afraid of any kind of long-term rental commitment. I do not want to get into that mess. I don't want to do any of that.
Well, Adrian and I invested for the first time together in real estate. Aside from our businesses, we purchased a property which is literally 2 blocks away from home for us. We bought it for, we believe, somewhere, what did we say, about 8%?
8%.
Undervalued, under market value. It has since increased. We closed on it in August. And what would you say now, Adrian? It's dipped back down a little bit in the last 2 months, obviously, but 12% gain on it.
Yeah, at least.
For those listening,
to send that picture.
It's going on my story.
Erin's just taken some photos there for those of you listening.
Well, what we should have done, because Erin mentioned earlier that she hates live. We should have gone live and not told her.
You think I'm not? Surprise! No. So we have this property. It good tenants. Hopefully they're definitely living in the home, and it looks like they'll be living in there for probably a long time. But they pay us a good market value for it. We recently, though, had expenses. The roof had some shingles missing. It backs onto green space, so big gust of wind came and knocked some shingles off. So we had that, and the fridge started leaking, so we had to get that repaired. But long-term tenants can be good and can be bad. We've had experiences now that we're a property management company. We're going to be dealing with that a lot more often. But before we started KTPM, we had a client that used us as realtors to rent their home, and they had a tenant that they specifically selected. If I remember correctly, Adrian, you said they had 6 or 7 very good tenants to choose from, and they specifically chose these ones. And I don't know.
Which is not one of the ones I'd suggested.
Which is not one of the ones. So,
and the big thing, just as a side note on that, is when you're renting, especially the long-term tenants, I don't know that it would apply so much to short-term vacation rentals, but the landlord didn't want to meet the tenant. And I think you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And had they have done it, because later on I was helping trying to evict them and I met them, not a chance would they have accepted them as tenants.
Mm.
And then on the other side of the equation, we've had very, very good tenants that pay on time, that take care of the property and treat it very well. I've had my own tenants long-term that treated it probably better than I would have because of how clean and spotless they treated it and even as a rental property. So you get those fine ends. I saw you guys posted something, I don't know on which Instagram account it was, Erin, but you had a broken pipe at Trott Cottage.
Yeah, the joys of cottage septic systems and old ones at that. Yeah,
was that a mouse? Was that a mouse that was dead in it, or what was that? It was a corpse. It was a corpse of something, wasn't it?
It was hairy, whatever it was. It was pretty big and it was pretty gross, among other things.
Adrian, did you go trim your beard at the cottage?
Wasn't my beard.
Yeah, that's probably really the only complaint I would have about renting is that you just got to follow that rule about the septic system. It's delicate up here. There's so many problems and it's so expensive to fix. So Brad takes that on every time something's wrong with the septic pump. There's a jet pump that goes, there's a holding tank. It goes into the jet pump and then it shoots up into the septic. It's just like
so many
things to go wrong. If you flush anything, if you look at the toilet the wrong way, it will break. There's just stuff. So
I wonder how you can convey that message clearly to people.
Okay, so I've come up with an idea. I'm going to make a sign that it says, if it doesn't go in here, it doesn't go in there. And it's going to point at the toilet.
That could be dangerous. That could be dangerous. I've seen some things going in there that, might make you question that.
I don't know, guys. Help me. How do I get through to people?
You can't. So here's the thing. I've rented many cottages in my experience, and I'll be honest. I'll throw it out there that as careful and cautious and as well as you treat a property, if it's not yours and you've been drinking, things happen. And
am I pointing at the right person
right now?
On your screen?
No. And Are you
me?
No,
I know the
no.
rules.
Where are you
I
pointing?
don't know where
at?
you are.
Where are you
Where am
pointing
I
at?
on your screen? I'm trying to point to you.
You're trying to point to me?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm being honest. I must,
Yeah.
for sure, I flushed something down one of those toilets that I probably shouldn't have. And it wasn't out of spite or disrespect. It was just out of, I probably would have done this at home. And, you know, it might not be in my current life, but 10 years ago, when I was in my, early 30s, late 20s, different answers. So it depends who you're renting to and who they are with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things can happen. People don't think about it, and septic tanks are so susceptible to damage. And even people putting oil down the kitchen drain, or bacon grease down the kitchen drain. Oh man. Right. So
that makes me crazy. Like, we don't do that at home. Why are you going to do that here?
Right. But it happens. I can guarantee you
absolutely.
It happens.
It sure does. And then you know what else they do? They cut on your butcher block countertops.
Well, you should
can understand
butcher
that
block countertops to begin with. If you're going to rent the place, I hate to break it to you. They look fucking great, but don't get butcher countertops if you're renting it out. Right?
Look on the bright side. Don't
get bone china if you're renting
the pictures of the butcher block countertop probably got you some business. So if it also cost you some money to have it there, it was worth it.
Yeah, if we didn't have COVID right now, we would be actually replacing them with another darker, like walnut V-groove type of, not a herringbone, but like because I got the triangle. Chevron, like I've got that triangle theme going everywhere at Trott Cottage. So we were going to do that again with another countertop that's darker.
Not a bad idea. Or you can just
keep the same angle.
Yeah.
You can get a branding stamp made and just go around it and stamp it everywhere.
99.6% of our guests are dream renters. Absolutely. So grateful for all the people that rent at our cottages because they're amazing.
That's nice. You know why I think that is, though? I think that is because, and it's probably not that way with everybody, but I think with you, it probably is because they follow you on Instagram. They probably have a higher level of respect for you.
So I've been told that people get to know us personally. Like they're like, we're in Brad and Erin's cottage, like we saw them paint this. We saw them build that themselves. Yeah. So there's that kind of level of like personal that we have with the followers on Instagram that are like, I care about the cottage because I watched them create it. Like I'm talking about Monett Bay specifically. The following we had during that renovation was just crazy. And I do all those stories with the polls and the help me pick a tile and stuff like that. And they're into it. They love it. And then when they finally booked it to rent it, they treated it like gold.
Yeah. That's nice.
Well, it's like going to a really nice hotel, right? Like, I
like to think so.
you go, if let's just say you're in a $500 a night basic room and you go downstairs for a cocktail. You're not going downstairs in your Roots outfit, right? Like you're dressing up. The
difference is,
hang on. Did you put some makeup on? I don't know. It looks like it.
Me?
Yeah.
Of course I did, guys. This is the most action I've had in like a month and a half.
Don't tell Brad.
We got to talk to your husband. But the difference is, Ariel, you're talking about a hotel. When they go back up to their room after getting pissed drunk at the bar, they trash it because they don't care.
You don't know what they're flushing down that toilet. Let me tell you.
That's true.
Where do you feel the cottage market is right now? And where is it going? If my cottage, you actually shot it. It was your father and mother that listed the property for sale. And I saw the listing. I saw a photo of, I don't know who snapped the shot, but it was just a bad shot actually of the for sale sign. But in the description, it said waterfront property on Sand Lake, and it didn't have any links or anything. So I actually had to reach out and dig a little bit. And then you and I chatted, and I bought the property sight unseen. Like I'd never been there, nothing, and I bought it that night and ended up getting multiple offers. If I was to sell my cottage right now, what is the market for it? Is there a desire for property like that right now?
Absolutely. I get that question all the time. What's my cottage worth? What could I sell it for right now? And because I do know your property, I've seen the renovation that you've done. I mean, it's beautiful. That glass, that picture window, that's money. Like I love everything you've done to your cottage. You could get a pretty penny for it. Really. Yeah. I'm finding my searches for my buyers right now are ranging from like 450, 475 upwards of 800, 900,000. So yours, yeah. I mean, I obviously haven't done any comparables, but I would have to say like you're somewhere close to 6.
Yeah,
or more.
I pegged it right now. So if I was to list it today, I'd probably list it a little bit low, but and because I know it would get into multiple offers, I think actual market value, like if somebody was to go out and actually write a check for it, it's probably in the 630 to 640 range. That's my guess. And I mean, I invested $100,000 on renovating it pretty well within the first year of ownership. We gutted the kitchen, the bathroom. We did a minor lift to it, but the whole entryway, the laundry area, the kitchen, all the windows, the insulation. I had the arborists come in and trim up the trees for a better sight line. The Muskoka room, we did the weather all light up windows, which I'm a huge fan of. You haven't seen the shed. Actually, we did barn doors on the shed as opposed to the crap they had on there before. So we've done a number of things to it. The thing with the cottage is that every year, as you know, there is an investment in it, right? So, now that I've had it 3 years, the investment continues to grow because there's always money to put in it. But my question more stemmed to, let's talk about if you were to buy a cottage right now, like your clients that are messaging you and they want a cottage. What are the top must-haves?
No stairs is a huge one.
Like stairs down to the water.
Yeah, and it's really tough because these cottages are built.
Trott Cottage has a number of stairs going down to the lake, right?
Not the kind of stairs I'm talking. Where I'm talking like 200 to 500 stairs down to the water. Okay,
there's a lot of that.
Come on, Grandma.
There's so many beautiful cottages that have 500 stairs down, and we're talking like steep. And that's why there's this company. I don't know if you've seen. They have the lifts. Yeah, you can like
for people
put.
Yeah,
you get a lift installed, and it's like a ski lift, and you put your food in it and your booze and your toys, and it goes down to the water for you, so you don't have to carry things up and down your 500.
Is it made for people or for toys?
You can get them can get them for people too. Like you get in it and you ride your lift all the way down to the water.
It's like going to Woodbine Fantasy Fair.
It's slow too. It's like 20 minutes. Hey, can you grab me a sandwich? And then you got to take 25 minutes back up the.
Hey, there's too many people pissing in that lake.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's a fact that like cottages have stairs. They do. I was exaggerating with the 200 to 500 all the time. It's not like that, but they all have this dream of just like a straight walk out to the water, which we have at Monett Bay, and blessed to have that. But I mean, they want that. They want just the straight lawn drops into the lake. That's it. Like,
but does that pose a risk? I mean, obviously poses a risk. Like, should people be aware of potential flood? Because Huntsville's been prone to flooding a lot, especially with the last year.
Minden, all the floods in Minden over the last 10 years.
Yeah, flooding is a reality for sure when the ice comes out on the lake and we have like buckets of snow melting all at once, for sure. But we didn't have any flooding this year.
No, that's good.
Last year, most of my property, all the flat land off of the lake and where the sheds are and everything, that was all flooded. It was sopping wet right up until probably the end of August. That's reality. Yeah. But this year, I've been watching the cameras. It's been fine, so it's going to be nice and dry. So you kind of take the wins with the losses, I guess, with some years.
Right.
Just like some years, you got shit ton of mosquitoes at the end of June, and other years you don't have any.
Right. Yeah. So, and Monett Bay does flood. Whereas Trott Cottage, you go up the stairs, you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, you take the good with the bad. But that is the number one request I have from buyers is I don't want stairs. And I think I can't really, boathouses, which is also super rare and way expensive. If you're going to find a property that has a boathouse, like you're in millions. I
was going to say, not in that price range.
Like, right. And definitely not for 500,000. Like there's just no way.
Well, and it's no different from us. I mean, people say, they want a double car detached house in the townhouse price point. So these are the same things that you experienced and how they relate to cottages. So that's interesting that I wonder where they get those perceptions that it's feasible.
Well, how does somebody in Milton get the perception that they can own a double car garage home for $750,000?
Perhaps because they could have if they made the decision 12 months ago.
More like 6 years ago, but
yeah. Erin, you recently sold a cottage. Can you talk about that recent sale?
Hang on, I'll let you take over the floor here. I am freshly out of beverage, so go ahead, Erin, and I'll.
So I had the opportunity to list a off-grid water access only cabin in Kearney, which comes with its challenges, but I was up for it. I was pumped.
So hang on. So off-grid water only. So what does that mean for people that are listening that may have no idea?
Okay. So off-grid means off the grid. So there's no hydro running to the property. So you have to create your own electricity, and you can do that with solar panels on the roof. So this particular cottage had 6 solar panels charging a huge battery inside, room for about 14 panels, I think, on the roof, but he had 6, and then a generator as backup. So say the snow was on the roof for, the winter and the battery completely drained, he would just run his generator for about 2 hours and charge the battery up enough to brush off the roof, and then the solar panels can power everything. And it's pretty cool. Like I personally had stayed over there in September overnight, and it was done. The cottage was built so well. I mean, he's a contractor, and he did it. He almost overbuilt it, but it's beautiful, beautiful cottage. So it wasn't even like we were missing anything. I didn't feel like, shut off that light because we're going to drain the battery. Like it was normal, and the water is pumped up from the lake. So there is no, underground water with an off-grid, and there's a propane tank that runs the stove cooktop, and it's heated by wood. So off-grid is just that. Their only operating costs, or their only costs going forward, is the property taxes, which was $1,214 a year.
Wow. And then the water only access literally means that you cannot drive to the cottage.
You can't drive to it. People said, "Oh, but can I just walk through the forest?" I'm like, no. It's surrounded by crown land, and you can only get to it by water or ice. And so he would go in the winter as well with a snowmobile, ATV, or a snowshoe. But that's the only way to get to it. Super isolated.
So it's a pretty unique prop. What would you say? I mean, in general, but also specifically with this particular cottage, because I'm sure it would be different than a traditional cottage. What are the challenges or things that people maybe don't take into consideration when buying from the perspective of financing and inspections and stuff like that?
So the banks look at off-grid property as just land, which, I mean, you can still get a mortgage. It's just they're less inclined to mortgage it. So you'd have to look at like private financing for an off-grid property. But yeah, we did have an offer come in December that unfortunately fell through due to this reason, due to financing. They thought that they could get it and they couldn't. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to say it like less bluntly, but you got to have money, just like buy it, buy it outright. And it sold for, can I say that? It sold for $290. Can I say that?
Is it firm?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can say that.
Yeah.
It's your listing. So
yeah, I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about, but yeah.
The worst case scenario, you'll have to take the same ethics course that
I have all the answers for you.
So now, what is an ethics course in real estate? Is it anger management?
No.
Should have been.
It made us angry. That's a whole nother course we need to focus on now. No, it was, you know what? I actually found it, I don't want to divert too much, but I found it was interesting. I don't think we needed to take it.
We certainly shouldn't have. About 47,000 of the realtors that are licensed in the province of Ontario.
Yeah,
maybe should.
I look at every experience from a positive perspective, and I think it was a good opportunity that we were forced to do, and it was learning experience. So
that's good.
As business owners, I think it actually was quite valuable to the growth of our team, and we're now a team of 8. And planning on expanding to be a team of 14 to 16 in the next 12 months. So from that perspective, it was great.
I'm just texting my husband in the basement at the bar, asking him to bring me more wine.
Tell him to bring the bottle. We want to see the nice, pretty bottle.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right.
I think I finished that one. I finished the Petit Chablis, so I'm downgrading to Kim Crawford.
Oh, okay.
Was that the one in your photo?
Yes. That is my go-to, daily drinker. So I give that to our guests at Trott Cottage, but we don't have any guests right now.
So good business expense there, Erin. Don't let CRA see a copy of this. So one thing that I think you've done a great job at, and maybe you can talk a little bit about it and talk to the audience about it. So for those that are interested in buying a cottage and as a rental, because I think now most people buying a cottage are going to be looking at renting it in some capacity, and Airbnb seems to be the trendy and most effective and efficient way to go. So if somebody's living in Milton right now and wants to buy a cottage, and we hook them up with you, and they want to go and see some waterfront property and be able to rent it out on Airbnb, do you have any tips for them? And more so, I want you to talk a little bit about the extra touches that you and Brad contribute to those properties, because like you just mentioned, you leave people with a little welcome package, which I think is a really nice touch. We do that to our tenants as well. And anything that any advice that you can offer in that way in terms of value add?
Yeah. So when a buyer client is asking me to show them cottages and what my opinion is on rentability, I definitely offer that. If you're going to buy a cottage through me, I'm going to help you rent it if that's your goal. If that's what you want to do with the property, I'll set you up with the photography and the social media marketing and your Airbnb account and everything that I know that I can help with comes with hiring me to buy your cottage. I just I feel like I'm losing my train of thought. Hang on. This is edited, right? We're not gonna.
No, you need that wine. Where's that wine?
Brad. So sorry, your first question was about like if people want to rent.
So you provide details, like you're leaving them a little welcome basket and a note, and you've got little touches throughout the property. So when people arrive, they're feeling welcomed and
right.
And
so what contributed to you becoming a super host?
Okay, so there's 3 questions, guys. Okay, so hold on, Brad.
And here's a 4th: Burgundy or
Bordeaux.
What was it? Bordeaux.
Bordeaux or red wine. What was the other paint color? It was Bordeaux or red or Burgundy wine or something like that. Anyways, we're going with Bordeaux because it's like way cuter. Richard,
that's the color of their front door at I think at Trott Cottage.
At Trott Cottage, our iconic red door. I'm not even really. I don't know how the red happened, the red door there, because I don't even like red. But for whatever reason, red is good feng
shui. I find that hard to believe. I can't. I'm pointing to your shirt and your glasses.
Right. I don't even like red. I'm decked out in red, but I don't like red. Shoes. Don't take off your pants, please.
Okay. Yeah.
So, do you know the meaning?
There are meanings to it. Yes.
Do you know the meanings behind the red door?
So there's so many. I found out later after we painted the red door. I started reading into it. Mainly during like war times, or like it was a safe place for people to hide. If you painted your door red, you could go there. I think it might even have to do with that. I don't even want to add this in can we edit it out? Like, I don't want to talk about this. Thank you. It was a safe place. If your door was painted red, it's safe to enter. And it meant that you had good feng shui. I posted about it on Trott Cottage.
And you don't even remember what you posted. So approximately, I'm going to take a stab at 100 years ago. And I think it started in the British colony where if your door was painted red, it was the sign of you successfully having no debt on your property.
That is another one, yeah. That is another one.
Yeah, it was now a fully owned home, and to paint your door red was actually a sign of quite an accomplishment.
It's a very strange thing to do. Can you imagine people doing that now? My mortgage is paid for. So weird.
I'll find the post and I'll send it to you. But did you guys know that Instagram limits how far you can scroll back now?
No.
Did not know that.
Interesting.
It just happened to us today. I can no longer go back.
How far can you get, do you think?
The last one was December 24th.
No way.
Yahweh. No. And I'm really upset because like I should be able to go back in my archives and see that past, right? Like
that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to yours and see.
I don't know why they would do that. Do you guys have multiple Instagram accounts? Do you find that your options and your stories and whatnot changes between accounts?
Well,
it's not always
between
the same.
Business accounts and personal accounts, it will, but I don't think otherwise.
Not otherwise. Just business and personal have different activation. Yeah.
I'm already back into June of last year on your Trott Cottage one, so I think it's just something on your phone.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, Ariel, you were going to say?
Biggest advice on Instagram? you've got some growth. You've got like 5 Instagram accounts. I actually tagged the wrong one in one of our stories, and Adrian deleted it and faux pod me and and then yeah. So,
well,
any tips?
Yeah. So at the beginning of our little chat here, I did talk about how I feel like all of your businesses, including your rentals, which are businesses, should have their own identity, and you should really separate things. I started Monett and Co. specifically for real estate. That with what's going on right now and everything, real estate hasn't been super active for me, so I don't have a lot to talk about that other than my sale of my off-grid cabin. But the cottages, that like Trott Cottage is specifically about Trott Cottage, room by room painting is specifically about room by room painting. I actually have 11 Instagrams. I'm not active on all of them, but I had Muskoka Drone and Ever Images Studio where I did my product photography. So I just feel like you have to separate everything. I don't like to muddy my feed with, everything that I do. And I do wear a lot of hats, but I mean,
Right.
I do think that if you own a cottage rental or even an Airbnb in the city, a condo, you should create an Instagram account for that space and stick to it. And don't show me your kids' crafts. Stick to what your brand is and market that. And I think that it'll go a long way, because people are going to be searching. Okay, well, for me going down to Toronto, say to a concert, I'm going to search for an Airbnb in the area that the concert's in, and I want to find specifically that Airbnb. You know what I mean? So if you had an Instagram for your Airbnb, I'm going to find you and most likely book yours.
That makes a lot of sense.
With that said, Trott Cottage is in Muskoka, right? So we use the Muskoka hashtag, summer in Muskoka, what have you. And Monett Bay is not. It's in Emsdale, which is north of us here in Huntsville. It's like Perrytown.
And also home of Spicoli's, the best pizza. I am craving a slice. Oh my God, let me tell you. I'm dying.
Spicoli's is so exclusive. Did you know they don't even answer their phone? Like, how do you order pizza?
I've called there before.
They barely answer their phone. They're open like
cash only.
6 hours a day for like 5 days a week. Cash only.
Yep.
And you got to wait 30 minutes for the pizza, but it's fucking delicious.
Yes.
And I haven't had a slice now in 8 months, and I'm dying for some.
Is it really that delicious, or is it just the only place to go?
No, it is so good.
It's a really good pizza. They do a damn good job. And
they do. I agree.
Taking it back to the cottage and sitting with that pie at the corner of the table, at the picnic table, and in front of the lake. There's nothing better. Oh,
so while we have a lot of action at that cottage in Emsdale, Perry Township area, it's not searched as often. Do you know what I mean? Like, because there's no Muskoka. It's not in Muskoka. There's no Muskoka cache. So they're like,
not yet.
But they're fine.
Give it a few years. I'm telling you, it's gonna boom.
I think so. I'm telling all of my buyer clients to go further north, like go north of 11.
Yeah.
Well, Huntsville 20 years ago seemed like it was in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Well,
no, come on, really. It did.
I mean, it was still a spot. It was still a spot to be. My dog.
Yes, but a 2-hour drive 20 years ago was capacity for most people. 2 hours away from the GTA 20 years ago was kind of the limit. Don't want to look at cottages outside of that time distance. Now, I do believe it's getting longer and longer, and it's primarily because of affordability. Same thing like why Milton is booming.
And the roads are nicer now. Remember when it was just one lane in either direction at one point?
Gilbert, how dare you?
I know, I'm like, Brad, can you... He's a massive... This is why I'm losing focus, because he's a massive distraction. Can you please...
Brad's jealous he's not on the podcast, and now he's trying to disrupt the show.
No, I'm good.
got her wine. Get out of the room.
Erin, I never got through my questions with you about the off-grid cabin. I wanted
how much did it sell for?
$290.
What was it listed for?
$299.
Not bad.
Hey,
good job.
That
was a unique property, and you did something. You did something really unique towards the end that I think helped you, and I think that might have contributed to your sale. Do you know what that is?
It was my listing description, right? Are you talking about on MLS? Yeah,
100%.
With the risk of losing, friends over that, and that's another conversation we can have it's about locals and cutters, maybe. I thought,
don't even go there.
Yeah, if you're following Trott Cottage today, you know what happened with my post. But so I marketed it as your ultimate escape, your ultimate isolation quarantine location. Because it's water access only. No, you're not going to have anybody coming. Nobody's going to knock on your door or show up unannounced. And so I think I talked about that. And then I said, at the end, we're going to throw in a roll of toilet paper just as a tongue-in-cheek joke. But it did get a lot, as soon as I changed that. And then I also used social media to kind of promote that a bit. I got asked every day, emails, realtor.ca is just crazy about it. And I know that it has to do with the season changing too, and the ice going out on the lake, and it was more accessible for us to go there. But definitely people were like, you're funny. That was a really clever description.
But it's funny, but it also, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, I think, when it comes to just sales in general, but specifically obviously with real estate, is that it is about selling and about emotions. And just by rewording your description, all of a sudden, given the circumstances everybody's living in, all of a sudden now you've hit somebody emotionally, and they're like, can you imagine if we had this place we can go to right now? And all of a sudden now they start picturing it, and it's just like, I have to move there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually who bought it, was a couple that has a condo in the beaches downtown. And they're like, we need an escape.
The beach.
The beach.
It's no longer the beaches. Come on.
That's like someone saying Muskokas.
The Muskokas. We got a cottage in the Muskokas.
Totally is.
No, it's not even close. It's not even close. The beaches are plural. Beaches. Muskoka is
not
singular.
Anymore. No,
Muskoka.
Not anymore.
Okay. That's what they said. They said they are from the beaches.
Oh, did they?
I don't say I'm from the Muskokas.
But anyways, I congratulate you on your sale. I think it was well-deserved, and you did a good job.
Thank you.
290 grand, and you got a little paradise of your own, off-grid or not. What the hell do you buy for 290 grand, let alone a little piece on a lake, right?
So off-grid is going to become so much bigger, even in primary residences now, given what's going on. People are thinking that way, and they're thinking how can I be completely independent and not have to worry about all these other services to take care of me.
Well, and to Erin's point, can you imagine somebody specializing in that on Instagram and as a realtor, where you focus on just off-grid properties and off-grid living, and you educate people on how to do that and what's available and what the prices are? I think somebody would make a killing on that. Totally not my forte.
Oh boy.
Are there builders up there that focus on that?
Not enough. So the seller of this cabin, he is a contractor, as I mentioned, and he's ready. He's like, let's do it again. I want land, or I want a fixer-upper. I want to build this off-grid cabin to the nines again and keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And I'm all for it. I mean, he did such a good job. It is a desirable thing. I think people are looking for. And as many properties we have, Brad and I were kind of like, hey, there's something to be said about off-grid, no carrying costs. There's nothing. There's property taxes, and that is it. You fill your propane tank once every 2 years. There's no carrying costs, and that's really kind of nice.
Yeah. I think there would be a huge, huge demand, a very niche demand, but marketed properly and branded properly. I think there would be a huge rental market for people that want to be a part of that and want to disconnect. I can't tell you we have Wi-Fi at the cottage. We have TVs at the cottage. We have satellite. We have all of basically the comfort features that we do at home at our cottage. And I can't tell you how many times I wish I wouldn't have my phone. I wouldn't have a TV. I wouldn't have internet, nothing, just the lake and a wood burning fire, my barbecue and my dog. Like,
I wanted to do
my
that
kids
this
and my
year.
spouse, but living that
yeah,
in that way. So I think there would be a huge rental market for that, especially now in the next 10 years as the generation that are growing up to be vegan and, very aware and conscious of health and body, mind, and soul. I think that is definitely a big part of the future.
I think the whole thing is like an experience. Like you'd rent it, and part of the experience is you show up and you have somebody take you across on a boat and drop you off for a week.
This is not Survivor, okay? Come on.
No, but like it sounds like something out of a horror movie, perhaps too.
Right.
But there's more of an experience to it.
For
as far as vacations go.
Well, there's certainly a lot more. I don't know if this is a word, but unwindability, right? Where you just disconnect, or disconnectability, where there's nothing else except peace and nature and your family.
So I had
or not.
Or not.
I wanted to do that this year. In February, I was going to go up north for 2 or 3 nights and just read.
Yeah,
by myself.
I had a lot of kind of frontliners, cops, nurses, ambulance drivers that were just like, we need to disconnect completely. Like I'm looking for a place that doesn't have the internet and doesn't have cell reception. And I'm interested in this off-grid cabin because I just need to escape my life. And, rightfully so. They absolutely deserve that kind of headspace to get away. And so, more post COVID, I think more than ever, like people are going to need to escape. And come up north and isolate or just like have that weekend away from all of the stresses that are going on right now.
Are you buying a third property?
I have bought a third property in Costa Rica area.
All right, so let's talk about that. So I more meant third cottage.
Fourth.
But hang on, Adrian mentioned he did want to actually bring that up, and I have mentioned for several years now. I think my first visit to Costa Rica was 6 years ago. No, more than that. 7 years ago. And in my time there 7 years ago, which was only for 8 days,
What is that? A fly?
No, it's one of those new, what's this murder beetle?
It's a murder hornet.
Murder hornet.
No,
I don't know
I'm
what
serious.
you're talking about.
It's still alive. Sorry.
I dare you to drink it.
Alive?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't had dinner yet. What time is it?
That's unfortunate.
Fire.
I'm not going to do
it. So
sorry.
One day I will join you with my family on a beach somewhere in Costa Rica, because I will have that as a lifelong goal until it's accomplished, to have property there. I love it. It's like, I've been to a lot of resort type areas and, throughout Mexico, Dominican, Cuba, Hawaii, different areas throughout South America. And I don't know what it is about Costa Rica, but the people are just phenomenal. The weather is fantastic. The scenery is amazing. The accommodations, especially for Canadians, and there's a number of Canadians that are there and calling it home now, or a second home. And it's a place that hit my heart like no other, and obviously it did with you as well. And you and Brad are lucky enough to have found some property there that you've just leveled out and planning to build on. So that is, if that was me, I'd be like a kid in a candy store with that right there. Like that's exciting.
Thank you. Yes. It's still a little surreal to think that we own land there. I never in my wildest, I mean, of course we've gone there for the last 7 winters. I never ever thought that I would be able to afford to buy there. You can't, as Canadians, we can't mortgage or finance anything down there. So you have to have the cash up front, and it has to be in American dollars. So that's also another question I get a lot on Instagram is like, hey, I want to buy in Costa Rica, like, because my parents are licensed down there.
Homeline equity. That's
what we did. Trott Cottage mortgage came up. It was a 5-year. And our mortgage broker was like, hey, do you want $100,000? And we're like, yeah, sure. So we took that, converted it to US, and bought the land outright in CR. And like, it's sitting there. It's dirt. It's very expensive dirt. And we don't know, like, given the circumstances right now, like when we're going to be able to move forward building our casita, which is like a small cottage cabin thing. I don't know, but we own it.
Are you going to, once you build on it, are you going to Airbnb it?
Nope. I say that now. I say that now because
I don't know if I believe it.
Well, I really want my own escape. I want my own place. Like, we work like 7 months up here straight, 7 days a week. And I give my cottages away to everyone else, which I'm grateful for, but I just want my own. Like, we work so hard to go away in the winter to Costa Rica. So I want, and that's prime rental season for them down there is winter. And I want to be there in the winter. So, fast forward maybe 5 more years or more, we would build an actual larger home. Like, the casita's at the back of the property, and then the pool's in the middle, and the home is going to be at the front, and that we would live in and possibly rent out the casita in the back. But that's like way down, like way.
So are your parents, I know that they got involved with Century 21 brokerage in Costa Rica. Are they now able to represent people in purchasing and selling and all that?
So it's not Century 21, it's Crane Real Estate. And my dad also got his residency down there. So they're both practicing real estate every year and buying and selling for Canadians. And that was kind of the draw for Crane Real Estate to have my parents come on, was that their listings down there could be on our MLS system up here. So
I don't think it's so much that. I think it's more just having that somebody down there that you maybe feel like
catering
you can trust.
To Canadians.
That you can trust for sure. That speaks English and can connect you with the right, lawyers and everything for sure. We bought our lot privately. It was a private sale, and still haven't got it in our name. No, correction. It's in our name. It's not in our business name. When you buy down there, you need to have an incorporated business in Costa Rica, and then the property gets transferred into the incorporation. Otherwise, if both of us were to pass away, the government just takes our land. We have nothing to say about it.
How does the process of purchasing, and you kind of touched on the transfer, but is the process much different than buying a home in Canada?
Yes, a lot. Like, you got a couple hours, because it was just like, it was bananas. It was all in Spanish. Nobody really cares to help you kind of translate. And my lawyer is amazing down there, Denise, but she's also very busy. And the language barrier was the hugest problem for me. And that, that's my bad for not learning Spanish enough after 7 years. But yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot. So like I said, you have to buy it outright with cash. So you have to open a Costa Rica bank account. And that's fine, except that you need proof of where your money's coming from, like everything. So, because they want to prevent money laundering. So we had to prove like this came from remortgaging our cottage. And they're like, well, you need to prove that you own that cottage. And it was just like, it was crazy. And then I had brought U.S. cash down with me to pay, general labor, stuff like that. And I had some left over. So I wanted to go put it back in the bank.
$9,999,
right? You're correct, because Brad and I flew down. We flew down on separate dates and had separate amounts on our person. But did you know that dogs in airports are trained to smell money?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
But the plastic money, if wiped down with disinfectant, is untraceable by said dogs.
That's
Not
right.
that I would know.
So Costa Rican colonies are plastic, and Canadian is plastic. American is not yet.
Correct. Yes.
So the dogs are trained to find the money on you, and then they count it, and they'll take whatever is over and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so we definitely followed those rules. And so I had money left over, and I wanted to go put it in the bank before I returned back to Canada. And they would only allow me to deposit with my passport, by the way. You take a number like at a deli counter and you sit it for 2 hours, and then they call you and you go up with your passport. You got to prove who you are. And then I say, I would like to deposit, this cash. And they wouldn't do it. Like, they were like, no, because we don't have any proof of where this money came from. You could be a drug dealer on the street. And
Wow.
She's speaking to me in Spanish. So it's like, it was crazy stressful. I was not having it. By the end of it, I was just like, forget this. So there's a lot that I learned this year by buying internationally in Central America. I don't know what the future holds as far as building. We have a wonderful builder. He's amazing and he speaks English and he's great. But I am a little bit concerned about how that's going to go down. We need a water ticket. Sorry, I'm rambling, but we need a water ticket in order to turn the water on the property. And in order for that to happen, the property needs to be established in our business name, and it's not yet. And so we couldn't have water to just even pour concrete. And then our neighbor couldn't put his hose over the wall to give us water because he's breaking the law by doing that. So it's crazy. Stuff's crazy down there.
Wow. Did the bat come back?
Patrick came back. I love that you follow my stories. Like, I'm the biggest nerd ever, but you're watching them. So I'm glad.
We can't have you on the podcast and not talk about things that are actually interesting to you, because you really don't care what's happening in Milton. Who cares about what's happening in Milton? Except for.
What do you think people's biggest fear with buying abroad would be? Just the uncertainty of, probably the language barrier.
No, I feel like the stability of the government or the stability of the country would stop people. There's no.
You bought a property in Panama and got rear-ended on that one, but a little bit to your fault. But nothing's coming of that.
No, and I lost $40,000 US, less than 100.
40?
Yeah, but don't worry, it was at par.
It was at par.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing.
But you see, in Panama, if you try and contact the lawyer, good luck, right? Like,
Panama's. I just got stuck with a bad builder and poor employees that work with them, and I'm still occasionally calling. But I do think Panama's a good option too. I think Panama's quite established. I think next to Costa Rica, Panama's.
But here's the difference: you have a contract to purchase that unit. If that happens in North America, you close on that unit if you want to close on that unit. And now Well, I mean, you delayed, they delayed, you delayed, they delayed, and it was back and forth for many years. I know that.
Yeah.
But the building is there and your unit is there. And you don't even know what's happening with your unit.
Yeah.
If you have a contract in North America to purchase that unit, that's your unit, especially if you have $40,000 as a deposit or whatever into it. And that's the difference, that when you're thousands of miles away in a country that speaks a different language and they don't give a shit about you.
Well, I think that's where having real estate agents that are from, or just Canadian or American, English speaking. Yeah.
For sure, I would.
We touched on a soft spot because now he's depressed about the money.
Never buy from Bala Beach. Nice looking facility, though.
Looks like a nice facility. Nobody's ever fucking been there.
I wanted to go to, I forgot to tell you, Adrian, I wanted to go to Panama for like a couple days, like fly from San Jose to Panama. And your place came up on Airbnb, not yours specifically, but your building came up on Airbnb, and they're making a lot of money.
I know.
They're doing quite well. They're especially making a lot of money renting out the place that he put the deposit on, that they're renting out for free now. And
they probably sold for $20,000 more than I paid for it, plus my 40. Hey, lesson learned. I know. Well, one of the people involved in the project lives in Toronto, and I have his cell phone number, so I call him once a month to harass him. He never answers anymore, but in any event, I have learned from it, and nothing will likely ever come from my phone calls. But life is much bigger than one transaction that didn't go well.
I think Panama is a great area to invest in. It's just a little bit longer term. Costa Rica, I mean, I wish 7 years ago when I was there with my father and I did look at some properties to invest in, because that's at the same time that it was just after I purchased a condo in West Palm Beach. And I contemplated buying something there as well. I wish I would have pulled the trigger back then, but still tremendous amount of opportunities there. We've been running an hour and a half, episode 78 of KT Confidential. Any last words from either one of you? I'm good. We had a good chat.
I'm good.
Went through a couple of glasses of red wine. We brought up all kinds of topics that are relatable and interesting for anybody listening. Erin.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This has been so fun. I've only been asking my brother-in-law to have me on your podcast for 2 years now.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I was chatting with Alicia at dinner tonight, and she mentioned, she's wanted to be on the podcast forever. I swear to God, I had no idea. I mean, I'm a little bit oblivious to things.
In his offense, he is absolutely oblivious to most things and forgets everything.
So he's a trot. He's a trot.
Don't take offense to it at all.
I'm married to one, so I know.
I'll remember the most obscure things that make no sense and are, especially numbers, very complex numbers, but very basic like conversation. Sometimes I don't process it. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here, Erin.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, and if you're listening or watching, Monett & Co., Monett Bay, and Trott Cottage, Erin is killing it on Instagram with those 3 profiles, and you got to check them out. Some really great photography, learn a little bit about what it is to be an Airbnb superhost. And of course, KT Confidential podcast. We're everywhere, wherever you can listen to podcasts. We are there. Just search KT Confidential. And if you want to watch this video and check out Erin's cat and
and the fly in my wine.
And the fly, or the
murder hornet.
Murder hornet. Go to ktconfidential.ca. It'll take you right to the playlist on YouTube, and you can watch all 77 of the other episodes there. Peace, guys. Nice chatting with you tonight.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.